be talking about careers in testing. I'm going to go through what I'll talk about today. So I'm going to give you a little bit about me, some background to my career and what I've been doing, just to give you an idea of the types of roles as well that you could potentially be involved in if you wanted to have a career in testing. My career path. I'm going to look at some of the common myths about going into roles that involve testing and just to try and blow those away. Look at some of the pathways into testing roles. So depending on what your background is and where you've come from, I will go through some of those with you. Looking at the marketable skills that you can add to a testing role. So you may come from a different area outside of tech, and you may come with skills that you can actually add to the testing skills that you have, and they can come in quite handy. So I'll go through some of the marketable skills that are around at the moment and things that are popular in testing. We'll look at roles involving software testing more generally, and that's globally. Also, is a testing role right for you? It's not for everyone, I think personally, and I've been in the industry a long time. And beyond testing, what else can you do? There are lots of other things that you could do potentially. So we want to try and be honest. You don't have to stay in testing forever. So what else could you do if you don't stay in testing? And then I'll conclude. So a little bit about me. I had makeup in that picture and I looked a lot brighter than I do today. Okay, so what do I do? So for BCS, if I focus on that first of all, I'm actually a BCS council member nominated this year. So I'm really happy to have joined council. It means that I'm able to influence and be involved in really big decisions, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And I'm really happy that I was voted in, and I'm looking forward to attending more meetings and helping with big decisions. I'm also vice chair of the special interest group in software testing. We call it SIGIST for short. If you're not a member and you want to be in testing, please join. We love to have lots more members. We currently have over 1,000 members, and we also run free events and all kinds of different things. We've got, in fact, we've got our big summer conference coming up on testing diversity and AI, and we've got loads and loads of really good speakers on for that. So that's on the 19th of September. It's hybrid, in-person event's going to be in London, and then you can obviously follow online for a lot of the sessions as well. We'll be sending out more details, so find us on our group on LinkedIn if you are a BCS member already. If not, just watch our Twitter account, our SIGIST Twitter account. We'll be advertising at regular intervals between now and September with details on how you can sign up and register for the event. Oh, I should also say before I move on, I'm also vice chair for BCS Pride, which is our LGBTQIA+ group. And as Tristy mentioned at the beginning, I'm inclusion officer for BCSWomen as well. So I do quite a lot of volunteer stuff for the BCS, and they have most of my time outside of working and looking after my little boy. And I also mentor as well. So the mentoring, that actually doesn't take up as much time as you might think. If you are a BCS member, I will encourage you to get involved in signing up on the mentorship platform that BCS has, and putting your skills up for someone to potentially partner up with you as a mentee. Or if you yourself are looking to be a mentee, you can also sign up that way and look for a mentor as well. Mentoring is one of the best things I've ever done. It's not only to help a mentee. I've realized that I'm learning as well from them, so it keeps me up to date with what's happening in our industry and beyond, and it helps me to think about the types of issues and things that people might be dealing with within their roles, and they come to me and we try to work those things out. It's not training, it's not counseling as such, but we work on small or long-term goals, and we work towards trying to resolve those, and it might be that you're going for a different position or something like that, and I help with that kind of support. As I've mentioned, I'm Inclusion Officer for BCS Women. My day job, because I do have one, I'm actually Head of Quality Engineering for a company called Adaga. We're in the AI and data science space, and we primarily work with defense and government. And we're also hiring, so if anyone wants a job, please find me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I'll share all my details. We've got several roles open at the moment, a couple in testing maybe coming up in the near future, but we've definitely got capacity for front end, back end developers. Yeah, we've got lots of roles, data science as well, if anyone on here has an interest in that area too. Okay, so my career path. Now, I'm giving you this because I want you to understand that there are so many roles in testing, and they change all the time depending on the methodologies that companies are using. So therefore, the roles might be slightly different. If you're in an agile environment, there'll be less of these roles available now, these titles. But just to give you an example and an overview of where I've been on my career path, this might actually help you. So in terms of test roles, I've had a lot. I started out in the late 90s, I should say, as a UAT tester, and I went on from there. So I've learned a hell of a lot over the years, and it's allowed me to move into all kinds of different roles within the testing space. Everything from starting out as a business tester, UAT tester, right up to head of QA and quality roles. I've done a lot of these roles whilst I've been contractor. So I started off as a permanent member of staff within teams, and then after about 4 years, I decided I wanted to go contracting. The market was good and money was good too. And I also wanted to be able to pick and choose the types of projects I would work on. And I usually applied for roles on high priority projects, or anything that was quite complex, because I like to push myself. So I've worked on some high profile projects. And I've done every role possibly that you could do within testing, and I've probably missed out some other ones on here, but yeah. I actually have more than 20 years in tech now, 20 plus. And as I've said, I've worked in permanent and contract roles during my time. I've done other roles in tech outside of testing because I was a contractor, and it allowed me to try different things. So I've also worked as a project admin, and that's before I became a tester actually. So I worked in tech as a project admin, realized I really enjoyed looking at the systems that my department had and other teams within my company. And one of the developers suggested that I might like to try testing, and I never looked back. Business and data analysis has been a big thing for me. So I'm definitely a data analyst. If I hadn't been a tester, that's what I would have been. So it makes sense now that I absolutely adore my job right now, because I work with data, and I love working in AI and data science space. It's just the next thing I would have done. Potentially, I may still do it. You never know. Watch this space. In terms of industries, I've worked across lots of industries, obviously IT and computing first of all, but I've also worked in tech for pharmaceutical, education, government for a long time, across different projects. I've worked for the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, for ministers' expenses when that first started. I've worked for the Home Office, and I've worked for Ministry of Justice, and yeah, I've done quite a few things. Education, government, as I've mentioned, aviation. I worked for Civil Aviation Authority for 2.5 years, and I've worked in finance for quite a lot of time as well. And I should have actually put in here media, but I forgot that one. So I've worked in broadcast media as well for a while. So again, as I've just mentioned, some of my clients, I worked for Civil Aviation Authority. I've worked for Barclays for a number of years in contract, and in corporate banking, investment banking, not retail, because they wouldn't allow you to do all of them. But yeah, I've worked across Barclays as well. I've worked for the Home Office as well, on contract. I've worked for, as I said, I've done media stuff as well. I didn't include Sky in here for some reason, but I've worked for Sky for broadcast media. And I've also worked for PlayStation and Sony Computer Entertainment for a while as well. So I've got quite a varied background across different industries, and it's given me views of testing in every different, environment. And also, whilst I worked for Qualitest, I was a consultant for them, and I've worked across industries. I worked for mobile, I've worked for insurance, and I've worked for hospitals as well. So yeah, hospital trusts. So yeah, it's quite good. So now we come on to some of the common myths about getting roles within testing career. So I won't say roles within QA. Some people would say getting roles within QA. QA is a process. It's not a role or a team, or yeah. So that's just my bugbear. So the common myths around getting into testing, it's the easiest way to get into tech. A lot of people reach out to me for mentorship, and one of the first things they say is, I've heard that it's really easy to be a tester. Anyone can do it. And so I'm being told by people outside that I should, apply for test roles, even though I don't have any experience. The likelihood is, unless somebody specifically says they want somebody with no commercial experience, most test roles want you to have that. They need you to have that so that you understand something about the industry that you may be going to work in, or that you understand maybe some of the regulatory things or security related stuff that needs to be tested. You cannot just walk into a test job. It's just hard for you if you do, and I'll come on to some of that a bit later. People who don't code become testers. Now, full disclosure, I'm actually not as technical as a lot of the testers in my space, but because I come from a background of business analysis, data analysis, all of that can be applied to my job. And I also do process related stuff as well, and I work on standards, so into regulations, and I love the standards, and I'm about applying those to our processes and wider quality space. So I'm beyond testing, so I do more than that. So I actually, because I don't have the more technical skills, I don't tend to work within an agile team myself as a tester, because I'm way beyond that now, and I've been in management for a very long time. But people who don't code becoming testers, even if you came into tech from a different background and you didn't code, eventually you will need to learn that to get any further than the job you're currently in. And that's the truth. I'm just being honest. You don't have to be the world's best developer. You just need to have a very strong understanding of end-to-end processes and understand CI/CD and things like that. So you need to be able to script in whatever language your team requires you to produce test scripts. You will be bored in a testing role. That's another one I hear a lot, and it's usually from developers who are telling people, don't become testers, do this. I've never been bored. I'm a person who doesn't like being bored, and I have a very short attention span, I will admit that. But testing has always been something I've loved, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. And if that's not testament to that, I don't know what is. You will not be bored in the test role. The only thing I would say to you is, if you're bored in the role you're in, change job. Go and find another job in a company with a product that you would be passionate about. And that's how I feel about my current job, and that's why I have been there for nearly 3 years now. There's no career progression. It really depends. So if you are working in for companies where you're maybe still slightly working in a waterfall environment, and that's a methodology, then the likelihood is that you have a number of roles that you can work in within a test team, for example. Or higher up than that, if you're in a bigger company, it may be that you can go into program test management, or into head of roles, such as my role now. And so there is a career progression there, and I've had career progression the whole time I've been in tech. So the fact that they say there's no career progression for testing is a bit of a myth. Now, if you're working in an agile team, that's slightly different because the number of roles within those teams it's cut down. I've noticed, and I think it's becoming more of a trend now, that test management is dying within agile. So it may be that you won't be able to progress to a test manager role in the traditional sense, but a test lead, or that is the equivalent. So you could potentially do that, and if you're happy to stay in that role, great, or else you move across companies because that's what agile allows. Else you have to step away from testing within teams and do more of a management role, so maybe move into a middle management or senior management role. And beyond all of that, you could potentially go into an engineering management position. So pathways into testing roles. There are loads, but I've picked, I think, 4. So the one I'm really keen on, and it seems to be coming back, is apprenticeships. University may not be for everyone. And so coming up through a computer science degree or an engineering degree or something like that isn't for everyone. And, an apprenticeship is a nice way to come into the job. You're doing a number of days in a company, working with the people who are doing that role, and you're learning, as you should really on the job. And those skills are invaluable. But then you may also be, they may pay for you to go to college a couple of days a week, or even to uni, depending on where the course is being run. And you can then align that training in college or uni with your work that you're doing on the apprenticeship. So it's actually the best way, I think, to learn how to get into a test role. They're becoming more popular. I will admit they're coming back again, just because people can be disillusioned after they've been at uni for a number of years and not sure what to do next. And apprenticeships give you the ability to see what a career could look like after you finish training. University, which is the usual way that people come into it. I myself did not. I don't even have a degree. I'm going to say that. But I've worked really hard, and I do loads of other training outside of having a degree. One day I'll go and do a degree, but it certainly won't be in computer science. I'll probably do astronomy, because that's the one I started and didn't finish. So, I was a uni dropout, but I don't mind, because I know at some point I'll go back and finish that. I'll do astronomy and planetary science. But for everyone else, if you come through university route, congratulations, it's worked for you. Go and make sure you use that degree, and make sure that you have a career path planned out, or if you intend to go to university and then maybe do a boot camp or something afterwards to give you that skill set that you need to start working, then that's even better as well. The ones I love the most, apart from apprenticeships, are probably career changes. I speak to a lot of career changers because of the mentorship that I do. And it's always great because people think that they can't come into tech at all, even testing, with the backgrounds that they have, because they have no tech. And actually that's not true. There are loads of roles, and there are companies that champion it. I can give you an example. AO.com, last International Women's Day, did a whole evening event live on YouTube, where they talked about coming into tech roles, including testing, where you don't have a traditional background in tech, and you don't have any real commercial experience. So they talked about boot camps, they talked about bringing in your skills from your previous role and how you might align that with a career in tech. So at this point, if you're a career changer and don't know how you might do that, I definitely recommend finding yourself a good mentor, and they will be able to help you to look at the skills that you currently have and how you might align that to a career in tech. And ultimately, if you wanted to, a career in testing. There may be some other courses that you might have to do to bring yourself up to the skill sets that are required. But certainly if you show willing, if companies are willing to take on people without the commercial experience after a career change, say returning mothers, or people who've been out of the industry for a while, absolutely, mentor can help you with that. They may be able to utilize contacts to help you, or they'll know of other groups that may be able to help you get back into tech, or to get into tech if this is a full career change for you. The other one I've put here is as part of a user team, and that's how I started. So I was part of a user team. We had software that other teams were, and access to software that other teams were using as well. And I ultimately would test their business processes. And I didn't really realize what I was doing at first, but then eventually, as I've mentioned before, someone said to me, this is what you're doing user testing. And I actually looked into it some more and realized it was a proper job, applied for a role internally and got it. And you know, doing user acceptance testing was one of the best training things, apart from being maybe an apprentice actually, that I could have done. And it's really helped me in moving forward in my career. So I've got a bit of word salad here. You know, marketable skills are, there's a lot, but things I thought of off the top of my head when we're looking for people, or when I see job adverts, obviously they want the standard test skills, you know, understanding of processes. Possibly if you're moving into if you're thinking about going to a smaller company, they'll want you to understand Agile, and what it's like to work within an Agile team, the different roles you have within those teams. But you could also have different skill sets that you bring in that will be beneficial. So you may be, you know, have back-end experience or front-end experience in terms of knowing JavaScript or Java or Python or something like that for back-end, JavaScript for front-end. It may be that you are non-functional person, so therefore you know performance testing, for example. Or you could be a unicorn and know both back end, front end, maybe even done a bit of non-functional stuff as well. Or you could even come from a DevOps background and want to refine and make better your testing skills. So it may be that you want to take a break from being a full-on DevOps / platform engineer and move into testing for a while to do that. You could come into a role as what they call an SDET, which is a software developer in test. You could come in with all of these skills wrapped up, front end, back end, full stack, unicorn as we call them. And you know, you'll be snapped up because you've got automation experience of working across the full development lifecycle. You've got CI/CD experience, and all that stuff is gold for any Agile team at the moment. So if you've got that skill set, congratulations, and you'll earn a lot of money. And then you could come in with other skill sets like data science. I've seen a lot of data scientists on events I've done recently, because they've realized that testing is actually a part of their job. I'll come on to that. And you know, we work with our data scientists at work as well. And you know, initially our approach was different to theirs, but eventually we saw some common ground in the way that we do work, and they've learned some skills from us. And yes, data scientists are becoming more interested in testing. You could be involved in observability, which is a DevOps thing. So yeah, the observability and monitoring, those skill sets would be fantastic for any team right now. Analytics, which is my area, I love all of that. So, you know, again, these are skills that you can really utilize. You may come from an AI and ML background, AI machine learning background, or security. There's another one I've got here that's really strong at the moment as well. So if you have those skills and experience, or you want to do maybe some courses in that, that will really boost your CV and make you marketable. So in terms of the types of roles involved in software testing, there are quite a few, and people tend not to think about it. But you know, from the list here, most of the roles that I've listed out here are 32% on this particular graph were from this particular diagram were test engineers and QA engineers as their main job title. But you also get other roles that are involved in testing, obviously test leads and managers, test directors, less so, but I'm seeing that role more and more now actually. and heads off testing, who may not be hands-on, but ultimately have a good understanding of the platforms that they're looking after and their teams are looking after, and may dip their hand in and get their hands dirty. Sometimes I do. I like to understand the platforms, and I like to, you know, have a look now and again when I've got time, and definitely you need to keep yourself up to date, especially when we get new features in. I like to try them out, and I usually find stuff wrong, and I'll, you know, my guys hate it when I test, put it that way. So I try not to. I try to leave it up to my team to do that. Automation testers, obviously, you know, now becoming more and more popular. Team leads, consultants, all the usual roles like software engineers, SDETs. One of the things that you're probably not aware of, like product managers also test sometimes. I've worked in companies with product managers where they make it their business to test all the time. And they always want to know what the state of the system is based on the features that they're looking after and are responsible for. They work with the SMEs as well. So, you know, it's really their duty to make sure they understand the state of the system. So there are roles in every area of tech that have some level of testing involved. They may not be responsible for the work going through the release cycle, for example, but they will test ad hoc and you know, feed that information back into the various teams if they find bugs and things like that. Is a role in testing right for you? Okay, so I think I mentioned earlier, it's not for everyone. So this whole idea, this myth of anyone can do testing, yeah, you can do it to an extent, but beyond that, there's actually quite a lot of, you know, niche stuff that you need to know, and most people don't know that unless they are, you know, taking up that area of expertise. Like I know somebody who is an astrophysicist by training, but they actually work on testing satellites. And there's a lot of regulatory stuff and safety stuff that needs to be met in order to pass that testing. Nobody walking in off the street can test that. I wouldn't even be able to test that because I don't have that experience and knowledge. However, you know, there's an area of testing for everyone. You just have to find your right role, if you like, in the right industry for you. And if you're willing to learn, then obviously that is a fantastic thing, because as long as someone's willing to take you on without the skill set and you're willing to learn, then that's great. So it can be very challenging. And as I've mentioned, it can actually require specific domain knowledge and experience. It definitely requires an analytical mindset, and one that people don't really think about it, but a creative mindset as well. Because you have to think about novel ways that you can test the system, to not to break it necessarily anymore, because we try not to speak in that way anymore, but to find the bugs and you know, make the system more robust, and you know, to support the quality in that system. You need to have a creative mindset, think outside of the box, if you like, about ways to test that are not just, I've got some requirements in front of me and I'm just going to make sure that I check this thing works according to requirements. I think about things outside of that that may cause problems down the line, and you know, think widely about different styles of testing as well. It requires good communication skills. You have to speak to people at all different levels, so you need to be able to handle that. Whether or not you need to be able to present to people, it's debatable. It depends on your level, but good communication skills are key. So as well as the technical skills that you need for the roles, you also need to think about soft skills, and communication skills is one of them. You should be happy with change, because no 2 days are the same. I'll pick that one up first of all. Because I contracted for 11 years and a consultant as well in that time, I know that's the truth. No 2 days are the same. And when I was consulting, one day I might be, you know, one side of the country working for insurance, and the other end of the week, I might be working in a bank somewhere. No 2 days are the same. I had to be very used to change, and just being very methodical and neat in the way that I present stuff, and the how I left work for someone else to pick up, and just being responsible when I was working on roles and making sure that I didn't leave a complete mess for people. So yes, be happy with change. No 2 days are the same. Even if you've worked on the same product and the same project, I assure you, things will come up all the time that require you to think differently. So no 2 days will ever be the same. You could be working on different technologies from project to project. Yep, that's absolutely true. So you need to be aware of that. You may not always get full documentation for things, so be prepared to explore. The exploratory testing is key still, even though automation is the thing everybody wants at the moment. Being aware that exploratory testing is still a big part of our job. That's important to note as well, because not every part of a system can be have automated testing done if it's not been optimized for it. So be aware that you still, even if you have automation tester in your title, you may identify parts of the system that can't be tested in that way, and you have to think of novel ways to test them outside of that. So beyond testing, what else can you do? For me personally, I do loads of stuff outside of just testing. So if you take it from a career perspective, like I've mentioned before, you could potentially move out of testing altogether. If you were crazy enough to do that, you could move out of testing altogether and move into another area of tech. So for example, I've worked in delivery before and operations, and you could do that. And then you'd be more focused on an overall view of quality, for example, if you still wanted to stay in that space, and about delivery and delivering projects to clients and making sure that releases get to production in a timely manner, but being more aware of the project deadlines and responsibilities and other aspects like security and things like that. So you could move into that, or you could move into more of an engineering role. So you could move into a more deeply technical role, and move into engineering. So you could become a developer, or an engineer, as we call ours. Or you could move into engineering management, which again is something that you can do with a view to moving towards leadership and C-suite. So there are different things that you can do. I'm not saying that you can't move to C-suite via a testing role. You could actually, but it depends on the way that your company is aligned. But most companies have a way to C-suite via engineering management. So that's the best way if you want to go into a leadership role. That's what I would suggest. For me, the other things I do outside of my role, as I've mentioned, I also do loads of volunteering, but it's allowed me to do different things, and it's also given me some prizes and things like that as well. So just to mention here, Computer Weekly, I was included in the long list in 2021 for most influential women in tech. And that's the long list for that last summer, which was a complete shock and surprise, but I was really happy. And there were a number of people from BCSWomen who were recognized as well. We do a lot of work in this space, whether it's through education or other. We really do a lot of work, so it was really nice to be recognized. I was also included in the Computer Weekly top 10 rising stars as well, and it's rising stars not because I just started my career, but because I was being more involved in the diversity space. So, and that's another area that I'm really, really passionate about. So I'm all about diversity, and I present on diversity as well as testing and quality and mentorship. I've just been nominated to be in the second version of Voices in the Shadows, which is a book by global tech advocates, Global Women in Tech. And that's I think the closing date for that is the end of the month. So I've been nominated, and I'm waiting to hear whether or not I've been successful. So there's another string to my bow. If I get that, I'll be in a book. And I'm also due to write a book with BCS as well about Black and ethnic minority women in tech, and our journey and our struggles, and all the good stuff that also comes from being somebody in this space. And so, yeah, that's coming out at some point, probably next year. I have got to speak at Women Tech Global Conference. I've also been this year an ambassador for them as well. So, you know, there are good things that come off the back of being an active member in the community. So not just a job for me, it's a way of life. I mean, I literally live and breathe testing and diversity and all good stuff like that. I also got to speak at Picked For, which is a parliamentary group looking at the internet and tech. And I got to speak at their diversity rally last year. And I'll likely speak at one of their events again in the future, but you know, that was a really great opportunity for me. And later on this year in November, I'll be speaking at Women of Silicon Roundabout. So again, you know, there are loads of, and I've got loads of different events in between that, including the SIGIST conference and lots of other stuff that's happening as well, especially for Black History Month. But, you know, there is so much happening right now, and you can be a part of that too. You know, it's not just about doing a job every day. Testing can, you know, doing a test career and being the person you are, if you're a confident person and you don't mind speaking at events, there's loads of stuff that you can do outside of this, not just from a career perspective, but you can actually elevate your own brand, if you like, and help others in the process. There's a lot of why I do what I do here, like this event right now, is because I love helping people and I love giving back. I've been in my career for a long time and it's given a lot to me, and I want to make sure that people coming up get the same chances too. So yeah, that's it. So in conclusion, a career in testing is never dull. If anyone tells you that, ignore them. You can find another job. If you find the one that you're in is boring, there are lots of test jobs and lots of different projects, and there's always something interesting. And testing is one of the most stable roles, I would say, within tech. There's always a role available somewhere. If you don't mind moving around, there's loads of roles for you. And you know, the world is your oyster. You get the opportunity to work on interesting projects and with people from all different backgrounds. I have been absolutely lucky and I've loved every job literally that I've had. You know, and I really enjoy working with all the different types of people that I do get to work with. You can bring skills to a test role from other areas, even those outside tech. I mentioned that before. It's really, I actually think it's a really good thing when people come from outside tech and they bring in their skill set, because they see things differently. And that's always a good thing, a different set of eyes, different view of the world. And, you know, those things can come in really handy. You can progress to engineering, management and leadership. Yep, you can. And, you know, I encourage it. We need more people to be doing that. And, you know, we need to kind of break this idea that the same monoculture exists within engineering. We need to make sure that we're getting people into permanent work so that they can be counted, because if, you know, I do believe a lot of people working in contracts don't get counted, and some companies have whole teams of contractors working on their IT projects, but they don't count those in diversity stats. So we need to make sure that you know, we're getting a broad range of people working within tech, and so that we can see that reflected in our engineering management and leadership, and ultimately in our engineering teams. You'll join a global network of skilled people in tech, and you really will. And like I say, if people come from different backgrounds, they bring different skills. There's so many different skill sets and niches. And if you find one of those niches that you like and you can become skilled in that, you know, as I say, there are so many jobs out there for you. So testing is never dull and never boring. Thank you. Okay, so if you want to get hold of me, I am going to put my stuff in the chat afterwards, all my details, but you can email me at nicola@adaga.ai. That's my shortest email address. You can find me on Twitter at Nicola L. Martin. And if you see my picture and you don't recognize it, it's because I've got the Pride filter on at the moment. So it is me behind the picture. I've got the Pride filter on at the moment. And also the same on LinkedIn as well. So you can find me here. The last bit of it is NLMIT. And that's it from me. Thank you very much. I'm open to questions. I'll stop sharing and I'll come back to speak to you now. You're on mute.
unmute and I got caught out by that. I'm Tristy Talk. I'm part of BCS Women supporting Nicola today. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing the breadth of your experience. I think that that's one thing that really stuck out to me, the list of all of the different roles you've had across the different industries. And I think that brings a wealth of experience to each of the roles that you do going forward. There's also something you said about it's a way of life and not a job. I love that. There's
It
something
really
about
is. Yeah.
being able to live your purpose through your work. You shared really, the four key routes that people would recognize into a career for testing. And the one that particularly resonated for me, well, actually two of them. One was career change, and the other one was role change. And so that's quite common amongst the members of BCS Women. And women that I've come across in the industry who are looking to kind of figure out where they might go again from where they were. Again, transferable skills are really important. And then the second part's about actually where you are, maybe looking sideways with additional upskilling that you might need, or additional courses that you might want to take to be able to gain those experiences, especially after you've done UAT, which these are brilliant, just love it. And I think the really great thing about when you talked about beyond testing, it's all the opportunities that you've shared and all of your achievements that comes from initiative. And I'm just so proud to be sitting in the room with you. So thank you for sharing that. I have been monitoring the chats. I haven't seen any brave souls who've shared a question yet, so I'm hoping we can just open it up really quick here to see if there's any brave person who wants to share a question or any other thoughts. And if we don't have anyone who wishes to do so, then of course, please contact Nicola with her contact details that are in the chat. We will make this video available via YouTube. And of course, if I can't help it, join BCS and BCS Women in the BCS testing specialist group. I never remember the acronym.
SIGIST. So it's a special interest group in software testing. It was a real mouthful. I don't know who came up with that all those years ago, but we've kept it. We did consider changing it once, but it's too much like a hassle. We know it now, so most people know us as SIGIST. Yeah. So
join SIGIST or BCS Women or any one of the other many specialist groups and branches that are near you. We're obviously very keen to get to know our members and to welcome new ones. So hopefully, I think that's it for today then.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.